Admiral Vorath Ken stood on the command bridge of the Dominion flagship and looked out at the stars. He had served the Dominion of Eternal Stars for over 60 cycles. In all that time, he had never known defeat. He had never known fear. The Dominion was the greatest power in the known galaxy. Their ships numbered in the tens of thousands. Their territory covered 300 star systems. No species had ever stood against them and survived. So when Battle Group 79 went silent, he was not worried. He was annoyed. Communications failure, he said to his officers. Send a repair ship to check their relay stations. Battle Group 79 had been sent to the Velar system 3 days ago. It was a simple mission. The system was unclaimed space at the edge of Dominion territory. Scout ships had detected strange energy readings there. High Command wanted answers. 47 capital ships, 12 carriers, and 200 support vessels had jumped into the system to investigate. Then nothing. No reports. No signals. Complete silence. Vorath waited one more day. When there was still no word, he sent a drone. The small unmanned ship jumped to the Velar system, recorded everything it could see, and jumped back. What it brought back changed everything. The officers on the bridge gathered around the main display screen. The footage began to play. At first, Vorath did not understand what he was seeing. The Velar system looked wrong. There was too much debris floating in space. Too many pieces of metal spinning in the void. Then he recognized the shapes. He saw the broken hull of a Dominion dreadnought. He saw the torn remains of carriers. He saw escape pods floating among the wreckage, their lights dark and cold. Battle Group 79 was gone. All of it. Destroyed. How? Someone whispered. What could do this? The drone had recorded more. The footage continued. It showed the battle itself, captured by automated systems on the Dominion ships before they died. Vorath watched a single ship tear through his fleet like a blade through paper. The attacker was small. It was barely larger than a Dominion frigate. Its hull was painted gray, with no markings that anyone recognized. It moved with impossible speed, weaving between the Dominion ships as they tried to track it. The Dominion ships fired everything they had. Plasma cannons, missile batteries, energy beams that could cut through mountains. The weapons hit their target. Vorath saw the impacts clearly on the recording. The gray ship did not even slow down. Some kind of shield surrounded it. The Dominion weapons splashed against this barrier and simply vanished. Nothing got through. Nothing even came close. Then the gray ship fired back. Vorath had never seen weapons like these. The ship launched small metal objects at incredible speed. They moved so fast that the Dominion sensors could barely track them. These projectiles punched through Dominion shields like they were not there. They tore through armor. They went in one side of a ship and came out the other. One by one, the Dominion vessels died. Some exploded when their reactors were hit. Others simply went dark as their command bridges were destroyed. The crews had no time to escape. They had no time to even understand what was happening to them. The whole battle lasted 11 minutes. At the end, the gray ship stopped in the middle of the debris field. It sat there for a long moment, as if looking at what it had done. Then it turned and accelerated away. The drone caught one final image of it before it vanished into the darkness between stars. The bridge was silent. No one spoke. No one moved. Vorath felt something cold spreading through his chest. It took him a moment to recognize the feeling. It was fear. Real fear. Something he had not felt since he was a child. Send this to High Command, he said. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. Priority 1. Emergency transmission. High Command convened within hours. The most powerful leaders of the Dominion gathered in the Great Council chamber on the homeworld. They watched the footage in silence. They listened to the reports. They asked questions that no one could answer. Who were these attackers? Where did they come from? What did they want? The Dominion had conquered dozens of species over the centuries. They knew every major power in the galaxy. They had spies in every government, agents in every system. But no one had ever seen a ship like this. No one had ever encountered technology this advanced. Perhaps it was a single vessel. One council member suggested. A unique prototype, something we can study and counter. And if it was not, another replied. If they have more ships like this? If they have a fleet? The room fell silent again. Everyone understood what that would mean. A fleet of ships like the one in the footage could destroy the entire Dominion Navy. They could burn the homeworld itself. There would be nothing anyone could do to stop them. Vorath stood before the council and delivered his assessment. His voice was steady, but his hearts were pounding. "We know nothing about this enemy," he said. "We do not know their numbers. We do not know their location. We do not know their intentions. But we know one thing for certain. They are more powerful than us. Far more powerful than us." He paused and looked at each council member in turn. For the first time in 3,000 cycles, the Dominion faces a threat we may not be able to defeat. We must find out who they are. We must find out what they want, and we must pray that they do not come looking for us. The council voted unanimously. Every resource would be devoted to finding the unknown attackers. Every spy, every scientist, every ship would focus on this single goal. The hunt had begun. But deep in their hearts, every member of the council knew the truth. They were not the hunters anymore. They were the prey. Inquisitor Shael Mivran was the best intelligence agent the Dominion had ever produced. She had uncovered plots that threatened the throne. She had destroyed enemy spy networks with nothing but patience and careful thinking. She had never failed a mission in her entire career. When High Command gave her the task of finding the unknown attackers, she accepted without hesitation. She gathered a team of the Dominion's finest scientists and took a fleet of research vessels to the Velar system. Her mission was simple: study the debris, find answers, report back. What she found in the Velar system would haunt her dreams for the rest of her life. The debris field stretched across millions of kilometers of space. Pieces of Dominion ships floated everywhere. Some were as small as a hand, others were as large as buildings. The research vessels moved slowly through the wreckage, scanning everything, collecting samples, recording data. Shael supervised the operation from the lead vessel. She watched the data flow in and tried to make sense of what she was seeing. The first mystery was the weapons. Dominion shields were the most advanced in the galaxy. They could withstand hours of sustained bombardment. They could block plasma, missiles, energy beams, and nuclear explosions. Nothing could penetrate them. But the unknown attacker had torn through these shields like they were made of paper. The scientists examined the damage patterns on the wrecked ships. They found small holes punched clean through the armor. The holes were perfectly round, only a few centimeters wide. Whatever had made them had entered from one side of the ship and exited from the other, passing through everything in between. Kinetic projectiles, the lead scientist reported. Simple metal slugs. No explosives. No energy weapons. Just solid pieces of metal. Shael frowned. That is impossible. Our shields can stop kinetic weapons easily. They are the simplest threat to block. The scientist shook his head. These were not ordinary projectiles, Inquisitor. Based on the damage patterns, we estimate they were traveling at nearly 1% of light speed. At that velocity, no shield in existence could stop them. The energy transfer would be enormous. Shael tried to understand what she was hearing. 1% of light speed. That was thousands of kilometers per second. The Dominion's fastest missiles could not reach even a fraction of that speed. To accelerate a solid projectile to such velocity would require energy beyond anything the Dominion could produce. How? She asked. How did they generate that much power? The answer came from another team. They had been scanning the debris for residual energy signatures. Every ship left traces behind when it used its systems. These traces could tell you what kind of technology a vessel used. The results made no sense. The unknown ship generated power readings that exceeded our largest dreadnoughts, the team leader explained, by a factor of 15. Maybe more. Shael stared at the data. That ship was the size of a frigate. How could it produce more power than a dreadnought? We do not know, Inquisitor. Their reactor technology is completely unknown to us. It uses principles we have never seen before. It may be centuries ahead of our own technology. Perhaps more. Shael walked to the observation window and looked out at the debris field. Somewhere out there, a ship the size of a frigate had killed 259 Dominion vessels in 11 minutes. It had used weapons the Dominion could not block, and power systems the Dominion could not understand. And it had done all of this without taking a single point of damage. She thought about what this meant. If the unknown attackers had one ship like this, they might have more. They might have dozens. They might have hundreds. And each one of those ships could destroy an entire Dominion battle group without effort. The Dominion had always believed they were the supreme power in the galaxy. They had conquered every species they encountered. They had crushed every enemy who dared to stand against them. But now, in this field of broken ships and dead crews, Shael realized the truth. The Dominion had been playing games in a small pond. They had thought they were the biggest fish, but the ocean was much larger than they knew. And something far more dangerous was swimming in the deep waters. She spent 3 more days in the Valar system. Her team collected every piece of data they could find. They analyzed the weapon impacts. They studied the energy signatures. They mapped the movement patterns of the unknown ship during the battle. One detail caught her attention. The unknown ship had not targeted escape pods. It had not fired on vessels that were already disabled. It had focused only on ships that could still fight. When a Dominion vessel lost power and stopped firing, the attacker had moved on to the next target. This was not random destruction. This was not mindless violence. The unknown attackers had shown restraint. They had killed only what they needed to kill. They had stopped when the threat was eliminated. To Shael, this was the most frightening detail of all. These attackers were not monsters. They were not savages. They were careful, disciplined, and controlled. They knew exactly what they were doing. They had chosen to destroy Battle Group 79, and they had done so with surgical precision. What would happen if they chose to destroy more? Shael returned to the homeworld and submitted her report to High Command. She presented her findings clearly and without emotion. The unknown attackers possessed technology far beyond the Dominion's capabilities. Their weapons could not be blocked. Their power systems could not be matched. Their ship had shown no weakness at all. When she finished, the council chamber was silent for a long time. "What do you recommend, Inquisitor?" the High Chancellor finally asked. Shael took a deep breath. "We must find them before they find us. We must learn everything about them. Their home world, their population, their fleet strength, their intentions. Because if we do not, we will be fighting blind against an enemy we cannot defeat." The council agreed. Resources were assigned, ships were dispatched. The greatest intelligence operation in Dominion history began. But as Shael left the council chamber, she could not shake one terrible thought. What if finding them was exactly what the unknown attackers wanted? What if the Dominion was walking into a trap? She pushed the thought away and focused on her work. There was no time for doubt. The survival of the Dominion depended on finding answers, and she would find them, no matter the cost. Grand Admiral Tyrox Ven was not a patient man. He had spent his entire life fighting for the Dominion. He had led fleets into battle against a dozen different species. He had never lost. He had never retreated. He believed with absolute certainty that the Dominion was invincible. When High Command showed him the footage from the Valar system, he laughed. "One ship?" he said. "You are afraid of one ship? Send me with a real fleet. I will turn this mystery vessel into dust." The council tried to warn him. They showed him Inquisitor Shael's report. They explained the weapon capabilities, the power readings, the impossible technology. Tyrox dismissed it all. The previous commanders were weak, he declared. They were surprised. They were not prepared. "I will be different. Give me 3 full battle groups. Give me our best ships and our finest crews. I will end this threat once and for all." High Command had little choice. Fear was spreading through the Dominion. News of the destroyed fleet had leaked, despite their best efforts. Citizens were asking questions. Military officers were whispering about the unstoppable enemy. The Dominion needed a show of strength. They needed victory. They gave Tyrox everything he asked for. 3 battle groups assembled in the Korath system. Over 1,000 warships gathered in formation. Dreadnoughts, battle cruisers, carriers, destroyers, and support vessels stretched across space like an endless wall of metal and weapons. It was the largest fleet the Dominion had assembled in 500 cycles. Tyrox stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Judgment, and smiled. Let the unknown attackers come. Let them face the true might of the Dominion. The fleet jumped to the Valar system. They arrived in perfect formation. Weapons were charged. Shields were raised. Sensors scanned the entire system, searching for any sign of the enemy. For 2 hours, nothing happened. The system was empty except for the debris from the first battle. Tyrox ordered his ships to spread out and establish a defensive perimeter. He sent scouts to the outer edges of the system. He prepared for a long wait. The wait was shorter than he expected. A single ship appeared at the edge of the system. It was the same gray vessel from the recordings. It sat motionless for a moment, as if studying the Dominion fleet. Then it began broadcasting on an open channel. The message was clear and simple. It was translated perfectly into Dominion standard, though no one knew how. You entered our protected territory. We responded with proportional force. We do not seek war. Leave this system, and there will be no further conflict. Tyrox read the message and felt anger burn in his chest. Proportional force? They had killed over 30,000 Dominion soldiers. They had destroyed 259 ships, and now they dared to lecture him about proportional force? All ships, he commanded. Engage the enemy. Destroy that vessel. 1,000 warships turned toward a single target. Weapons locked on. Missiles loaded. Energy cannons charged to maximum power. The gray ship did not run. It did not hide. It simply began moving forward, directly toward the Dominion fleet. Tyrox gave the order to fire. The void of space lit up with destruction. Thousands of weapons fired at once. Plasma beams cut through the darkness. Missiles streaked toward their target in endless waves. Nuclear warheads, antimatter bombs, and kinetic torpedoes filled the space between the fleets. The gray ship flew through it all. Its shields flickered with strange patterns as weapons struck it. The energy dissipated harmlessly. The missiles exploded against the barrier and did nothing. The ship kept coming, faster now, accelerating to speeds that should have been impossible. Then it started firing back. Tyrox watched in horror as his ships began to die. The gray ship launched its projectiles with terrifying precision. Each shot found its target. Each impact punched through shields and armor like they did not exist. Ships exploded. Ships went dark. Ships broke apart into spinning fragments of metal. The fleet tried to respond. Captains shouted orders. Ships attempted evasive maneuvers. Fighter craft launched in desperate swarms. Nothing worked. The gray ship was too fast, too accurate, too powerful. It moved through the Dominion formation like death itself. It dodged between the larger vessels, using them as cover against their own weapons. It targeted command bridges and reactor cores with surgical precision. It killed with efficiency that bordered on art. Tyrox ordered a full retreat. It was the first retreat order he had ever given in his life. But it was too late. The gray ship positioned itself between the fleet and the jump points. Any vessel that tried to escape was destroyed before it could activate its engines. The battle lasted 4 minutes. 4 minutes to destroy nearly 1,000 warships. 4 minutes to kill hundreds of thousands of Dominion soldiers. 4 minutes to break the greatest fleet the Dominion had ever assembled. Tyrox stood on his bridge as fires burned around him. His flagship was dying. The gray ship had cored it through the center, destroying the reactor and most of the command systems. Emergency lights flickered. Alarms screamed. Crew members lay dead at their stations. He managed to send one final transmission before the eternal judgment broke apart. "Impossible," he whispered. "Impossible. Impossible." The word repeated until static swallowed his voice. When the battle ended, the gray ship stopped. It sat in the middle of the debris field, surrounded by the broken remains of the Dominion's pride. Slowly, it began moving through the wreckage. It approached one vessel that was still intact, a small frigate that had lost power early in the battle. The gray ship did not destroy it. Instead, it sent a signal that restored power to the frigate's basic systems. Communications, life support, and navigation came back online. The crew, still alive, found themselves able to move again. A message appeared on their screens. "Return to your people. Tell them what you saw. Tell them we do not want war. But if they come again, we will respond again. This is your only warning." The frigate jumped away. It carried with it the recordings of the battle and the message from the unknown attackers. High Command received the transmission 6 hours later. They watched the footage in complete silence. 847 ships destroyed. Hundreds of thousands dead. Grand Admiral Tyrox Venn among them. And the gray ship had not taken a single hit. The council members looked at each other with pale faces and trembling hands. They had sent their mightiest fleet against this enemy. They had thrown everything they had at a single ship, and they had lost. For the first time in 3,000 cycles, the Dominion understood what it meant to be powerless. For the first time, they knew what it felt like to face something they could not defeat. The question now was simple. What would they do next? Fight and die? Or find another way? The answer would determine the future of their entire civilization. The Dominion's intelligence network stretched across the entire galaxy. Thousands of agents worked in secret, gathering information, stealing secrets, and watching everything that happened in known space. They were the eyes and ears of the Empire. Nothing escaped their notice, but when they searched for information about the gray ship and its makers, they found nothing. Inquisitor Shael Mivran coordinated the search from her office on the homeworld. Reports came in from every corner of the galaxy. Agents questioned contacts. Spies broke into databases. Informants were paid vast sums for any useful information. The results were always the same. Nobody knew anything. The gray ship had appeared from nowhere. Its technology matched nothing in any known database. Its design followed no familiar pattern. Its makers were complete mysteries. Weeks passed. The council grew more desperate. Fear spread through the population despite every effort to control it. The story of the destroyed fleets had become legend. Citizens whispered about the unstoppable enemy lurking at the edge of known space. Some spoke of doom, others prayed to ancient gods. The Dominion was slowly tearing itself apart from the inside. Then, finally, an answer came from the most unexpected source. The Collective of Merchant Guilds was a neutral trading organization. They had no military. They claimed no territory. They simply moved goods between species and took a percentage of every transaction. They dealt with everyone, even enemies of the Dominion. The Dominion tolerated them because they were useful. A guildmaster named Vorax 10 requested a meeting with Inquisitor Shael. He was an old creature from a species known for their trading skills. His body was covered in gray scales, and his eyes gleamed with intelligence. When Shael met him in a secure location, he smiled in a way that made her uncomfortable. "I hear the mighty Dominion has lost 2 fleets to a single ship," he said. "Such a tragedy. I thought you might be interested in some information I possess." Shael kept her expression neutral. "What information? I know who attacked you. I know where they come from. I know what they are capable of." He named his price. It was enormous. Shael authorized the payment without hesitation. Vorax leaned back and began to speak. "The gray ship belongs to a species called humans. They come from a small world at the edge of the galaxy, in a region your people have never explored. They achieved faster than light travel approximately 300 of your cycles ago." Shael frowned. 300 cycles? That is nothing. They should be primitive. How can they possess such advanced technology? Vorax laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. That is the interesting part. You see, the humans are not like other species. They did not develop slowly over thousands of cycles. They did not follow the normal path of technological progress. They jumped ahead. They skipped steps. They invented things that should have taken them millions of cycles to discover. How? Shael demanded. Because they are insane, Vorax said simply. Not in a medical sense. In a cultural sense. They do not accept limits. When someone tells them something is impossible, they take it as a challenge. When they face a problem they cannot solve, they simply refuse to stop trying until they solve it. They are the most stubborn species in the galaxy. He pulled out a small device and projected images into the air. Shael saw a planet covered in blue water and green land. She saw cities stretching across continents. She saw ships leaving the atmosphere and traveling to other worlds. Their homeworld tried to kill them, Vorax explained. It had extreme temperatures, violent weather, dangerous predators, and scarce resources. Most species would have died. The humans survived. Then they conquered their world. Then they went to war with themselves. Again and again. For thousands of cycles. They spent their entire history fighting, dying, and learning. The images changed. Now Shael saw human warships. They were sleek and deadly, bristling with weapons. They moved in formation with perfect precision. When they finally reached the stars, they brought all that history with them. They build weapons the way other species build art. They see war as a science to be perfected, and their technology advances faster than any other species in the galaxy because they simply refuse to believe in impossibility. Shael felt cold spreading through her body. How many ships do they have? Unknown. They are secretive. But from what my contacts have gathered, they have substantial fleets, many vessels, many weapons. And the ship that attacked us? Vorax smiled again. This time, the expression held something like pity. That was not a warship, Inquisitor. That was a scout vessel, a pathfinder craft. Its primary purpose is exploration and first contact. It carries only defensive weapons and standard equipment. Shael stared at him. The words did not make sense. She replayed them in her mind, trying to understand. A scout vessel, she repeated slowly. The ship that destroyed 2 of our battle groups was a scout vessel? Correct. Imagine what their actual warships can do. The room felt smaller suddenly. The air felt thicker. Shael understood now why the Dominion's weapons had been so useless. They had not been fighting a dedicated combat vessel. They had been fighting the human equivalent of a research ship. And they had lost completely. Why did they attack us? She asked. The Velar system contains ancient ruins. Vorax explained. Relics from a species that died out long before any of us reached the stars. The humans discovered these ruins and declared the system protected. They were studying the artifacts when your first fleet arrived. Your ships entered the protected zone and began scanning with active sensors. The humans interpreted this as aggressive behavior and responded. They destroyed 250 ships because we scanned some ruins. They are very protective of historical sites. And your ships did fire first, if I understand correctly. Shael remembered the recordings. The Dominion vessels had indeed fired the first shots. They had assumed the small gray ship was not a threat. They had been wrong. She thanked Vorax for the information and returned to the council chamber. The leaders of the Dominion listened to her report with growing horror. When she finished, no one spoke for a long time. Finally, the High Chancellor broke the silence. What do we do now? Shael had thought about this question during her journey back. She had considered every option. Military response was suicide. The humans would destroy any fleet the Dominion sent. Hiding was impossible. The humans knew where they were now. Waiting was dangerous. Every day brought the possibility of human ships appearing in Dominion space. There was only one choice left. We must contact them, Shael said. We must send a diplomatic mission. We must negotiate peace before they decide to make war. The council debated for hours. Some members refused to accept the idea of surrendering to an unknown species. Others demanded that the Dominion fight to the last ship. But in the end, logic won over pride. The mathematics were simple. Fighting meant death. Diplomacy meant survival. The Dominion prepared its first peace envoy in 3,000 cycles. They would reach out to the humans and pray for mercy. It was their only hope. The Eternal Throne was the heart of the Dominion. It was a massive chamber built from black stone and golden metal. The ceiling rose so high that it disappeared into shadow. The walls were covered with carvings that told the story of 3,000 cycles of conquest and glory. Every species the Dominion had defeated was represented there. Every victory was remembered. Now the leaders of the Dominion sat in this chamber and waited for their enemies to arrive. The peace envoy had been sent 3 weeks ago. A small diplomatic ship had jumped to the edge of human space and broadcast a message of peaceful intentions. The response had come quickly. The humans agreed to send representatives. They would meet on the Dominion homeworld, in the Eternal Throne itself. Some council members had objected. Bringing humans to their most sacred space felt like surrender. But Inquisitor Shael had argued successfully that it was necessary. The Dominion needed to show respect. They needed to demonstrate that they took this meeting seriously. Pride would have to wait. The human ship arrived exactly on time. It was a small transport vessel, barely larger than a shuttle. It carried no visible weapons. It was escorted by a single Dominion cruiser that had met it at the border. When the ship landed at the palace, the council members watched through sensors. They saw the hatch open. They saw 3 figures step out into the light. Humans. They were smaller than most Dominion species. They had soft skin without scales or armor. They walked on 2 legs and had 2 arms. Their faces were flat, with forward-facing eyes and small mouths. They looked fragile, weak, harmless, but Shael had studied the intelligence reports. She knew that these soft bodies had conquered their deadly homeworld. She knew that these small creatures had built weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Appearances meant nothing. The 3 humans walked into the Eternal Throne with calm confidence. They did not bow. They did not show fear. They looked around at the massive chamber as if they were visiting an interesting museum. Their leader was a female with gray hair and dark eyes. She wore a simple uniform with no decorations except a few small badges on her chest. Her face showed lines of age and experience. When she spoke, Her voice was clear and strong. "I am Admiral Chen Wei of the United Earth Coalition. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us." The High Chancellor rose from his throne. He was an ancient creature, the oldest member of his species. He had ruled the Dominion for over 200 cycles. He had never shown weakness to anyone. Today, he chose his words carefully. "Admiral Chen Wei, the Dominion welcomes you. We have requested this meeting to discuss the recent events in the Valar system." Chen Wei nodded. "The destruction of your fleets. Yes, we should discuss that. Your ship killed nearly 1 million of our people. You destroyed over 1,000 of our vessels. The Dominion demands to know why." Chen Wei's expression did not change. "Your first fleet entered a protected system without permission. They scanned our research station with military sensors. When our patrol vessel attempted communication, your ships opened fire. We defended ourselves. And the second fleet? Your Grand Admiral brought 1,000 warships into our territory and ordered them to attack a single vessel that was broadcasting a message of peace. We defended ourselves again." The council chamber fell silent. The humans were not apologizing. They were not showing regret. They were simply stating facts. The High Chancellor leaned forward. "You killed 1 million of our people because they entered the wrong system? We killed soldiers who attacked us," Chen Wei replied. "We gave your second fleet a chance to withdraw. They chose to fight instead. We did not start this conflict, but we finished it." Her words hung in the air like a blade. The council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They had expected begging or bargaining. They had not expected this calm statement of power. "We could have done worse," Chen Wei continued. "Our patrol vessel could have destroyed every ship in both fleets. It could have followed your survivors back to your systems. It could have hunted down every vessel in your navy. Instead, we stopped. We let your people escape. We sent a warning instead of an invasion." She paused and looked directly at the High Chancellor. "We do not want war with the Dominion. We never wanted war. The Valar system contains artifacts from an ancient species that died long before any of us reached the stars. We were protecting history. That is all." The High Chancellor considered her words. Part of him wanted to rage against this small creature who spoke to him as an equal. But wisdom held his anger in check. He had seen the recordings. He knew what human weapons could do. Pride was worthless if it led to extinction. "What do you want?" he asked finally. "Recognition of our territory. A formal treaty establishing borders. Trade agreements that benefit both our peoples. Peace. And the Valar system remains under our protection. We will share our research findings with the Dominion. You can send scientists to study the artifacts, but no military vessels. Not anymore." It was a generous offer. More generous than the Dominion deserved after sending 2 fleets to attack human ships. The council members looked at each other, communicating silently. The High Chancellor asked one more question. It was the question that burned in every Dominion mind. "How? How did your species become so powerful? You have only been traveling the stars for 3 centuries. We have been an empire for 3,000 cycles. How can you be stronger than us?" Chen Wei smiled. It was a strange expression on her alien face. Not cruel, not mocking, almost sad, because we came from a world that tried to kill us every single day. Our planet had extreme weather, dangerous animals, deadly diseases, and limited resources. Every generation faced extinction. Every generation survived anyway. She walked forward, her footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. "We learned that survival is not about being the strongest or the smartest. It is about being too stubborn to die. When the universe tells us something is impossible, we prove it wrong. When we face problems we cannot solve, we keep trying until we solve them. We do not accept limits. We do not accept defeat." She stopped in the center of the chamber and looked up at the carvings on the walls. All those conquered species, all those victories. You built your empire by conquering others. You measured your strength by how many peoples you could defeat. But we built our strength differently. We conquered ourselves first. Our fears, our limits, our certainties. Her eyes returned to the High Chancellor. That ship in the Valar system was not a weapon to us. It was a promise. A promise that no matter what the universe throws at us, we will find a way. We will adapt. We will overcome. And we will never stop reaching for the next horizon. The chamber was completely silent. The council members stared at the small human female who had just explained why their entire civilization was outmatched. The High Chancellor rose from his throne and descended the steps toward Chen Wei. He stopped before her and performed an action that no Dominion ruler had ever performed before. He bowed his head. The Dominion accepts your terms. We will have peace. The treaty was signed that day. The Dominion recognized human territory. Trade routes were established. Military forces were withdrawn from the border regions. The Velar system became a joint research site, protected by both species. In the cycles that followed, the Dominion changed. They had always believed that conquest was the only path to greatness, but the humans showed them another way. Cooperation, innovation, growth without destruction. Some Dominion citizens resented the humans. They whispered about revenge and future wars, but most understood the truth. The humans had taught them a valuable lesson about the universe. There was always something stronger. There was always something smarter. The only true survival strategy was to keep learning, keep adapting, and keep reaching for the next horizon. And in the halls of the Eternal Throne, a new saying took root. It was whispered in fear and respect by those who remembered the gray ship and the million dead. Do not wake the humans, for when they rise, even empires tremble. The Dominion had learned this lesson well. They would not forget it. And somewhere in the distant stars, human ships continued their endless journey outward, exploring, discovering, reaching, always reaching for what lay beyond.